Olá, amigos da Panorama Audiovisual. Aqui é o Victor Piiroja, eu sou o CEO da Panorama. Estamos começando mais um Panorama Talks, hoje recebendo meu amigo Matt Silva, CEO da CIS Group, nos Estados Unidos. Olá, Matt.
E aí, Victor, tudo bem, meu amigo?
Maravilha. Estamos aqui também com Dennis Radeke, que é o diretor de vendas da divisão de mídia e entretenimento da LucidLink. Hello, Dennis.
Hey, greetings, good afternoon.
Thank you for being with us. Estamos aqui com Gustavo Brunser, diretor de desenvolvimento estratégico para a América Latina da Adobe. Hello, Gustavo.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
¿Qué tal?
¿Cómo están?
Gracias por estar aqui con nosotros.
Un gusto.
Primeiro Panorama Talks trilingue, é isso?
Trilingue, exatamente. É isso que eu ia falar, essa apresentação vai ser inglês, português e espanhol, mas isso que é bom do nosso mercado global.
Isso aí.
Yeah. Dennis, with the pandemic, we've seen a big growth in the technological process with a high demand for video consumption worldwide, with new streaming players fighting for the market and a huge necessity of remote production and with remote collaboration in all the players. How does LucidLink work in this process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And LucidLink really addresses those kinds of problems and needs in a really powerful and performant manner. So the first point is, you know, with the pandemic and everyone having to kind of rush home and now we're 2 years into this, and, you know, the market and the idea of collaboration and editing has changed so that I think there's a whole work from home movement and hybrid workflows and hybrid, you know, in office, out of office. All of that means that is kind of the new normal. And LucidLink really fundamentally allows for editing the content regardless of location. And that's really the key, right? So I typically connect to my normal demo space, which is 2,500 miles away from where I am. And yet it looks and acts like a local drive. And so I get the same kind of performance from that. The other thing is we talk about collaboration. We live in a globally connected world. And the idea with so many, you know, video content creators in the world, so many people using tools like Premiere Pro, the idea of collaborating on projects has become more important, especially accelerated with that pandemic as well. And so we allow, because everyone has access to the same content at the same time, collaboration is enhanced.
That's true. And we also noticed that a lot of companies made quick adaptations to offer cloud solutions, but something different about LucidLink is you are a company that born cloud native.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So I think that's an important distinction between cloud-enabled technologies, meaning they started out as one thing and it's like, hey, the cloud's actually the future. Let's adapt and create a socket or connector to it versus a cloud-native solution, which is what LucidLink is. And I think another distinction with some of the solutions that are out there, and there's lots of great solutions, but so many of them also include hardware. And it's important to point out that LucidLink is a pure SaaS or software as a service solution, so that you can get up and running in just a couple of minutes with no hardware and no capital upfront expenditures.
We talk about systems like Dropbox or Google Drive and iCloud that are used today for remote collaboration. There's one thing that they require the download of files and uploads, which takes a lot of time and will generate problems of duplicate files and lack of synchronization and problems with editing. How does the Link system work on this issue?
That's another great question. Very simply, you have a single source of truth. LucidLink, all of us on the call here or in a meeting can have access to the media at the same time. But it's the single source of truth. So solutions like Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, Sync, Box, whatever, all of those ultimately rely on the media getting up to the cloud, there being some kind of processing time, and then it trickling down to all of the end clients. And all of that adds up to an enormous amount of time that does not facilitate things like collaboration, which you just mentioned previously. So again, we act as a single source of truth with no syncing of data. So one of the things I like to point out is like the default volume size for a LucidLink volume when you first connect to it is a petabyte. So imagine having access to a full petabyte of data without having to sync anything. I mean, that's really powerful in terms of being able to access huge libraries of content and not like having to be waiting for anything to kind of get started with that creative process.
Mm-hmm. That's a great kind of point there, Dennis. I mean, and this, just kind of adding to that a little bit, the benefit of LucidLink, I mean, is tremendous when it comes to remote collaboration, right? But it's about also defining the use case, right? Because to Dennis's point, LucidLink serves as a single source of truth, right? There is no sync agent there between client and wherever the information resides. So, you don't run the risk of things like duplicate files, one person having access and the other person not having access to the latest version, right? So you don't have those versioning issues, all of that. And when it comes down to, again, defining the use case, because it's the single source of truth, right? You're kind of looking at, a myriad, a number of different use cases where this can be a central repository for archive, for instance, right? Where you can have multiple sites accessing this, or, you can have a real collaborative editorial workflow in the cloud with, for instance, half a dozen or a dozen, Adobe Premiere Pro editors hooked up to this LucidLink volume, all, kind of working on the same asset. So it's a very, very, very collaborative ecosystem, but it enhances the workflow across all the use cases, right? Because it's not just about production. It's also about enabling you to remonetize your archived assets at a much faster rate, right? So that's just kind of wanted to add that as well, because the use case here is extremely important, right? I mean, LucidLink's tech, the whole notion is enable remote collaboration in verticals that historically haven't been able to collaborate remotely because, the bandwidth requirements are too much, latency requirements are too much, the files are too heavy, et cetera, right? What are some that come to mind? Media and entertainment, obviously, but also things like architecture, right? Where you're working on CAD drawings and things like that. So it's, as far as I see it, as full disclosure, as a user, as well as, a systems integrator, it's genuinely revolutionary for the verticals that adopt it, right? And adopt it at scale. That's where you're really going to see the ROI of a solution like LucidLink, is actually adopting it where, the use case has tremendous value, let's say, not only for your media supply chain, but also to remonetize legacy assets, right? That's where I think the ROI is, let's say, for a lot of our clients.
Mm-hmm. And that's also a big challenge, talking about working in the cloud, the workflow in the cloud, is to work with 4K and 8K files. This kind of system allowed you to work with this kind of heavy traffic?
Absolutely. I mean, you can work with any size file. It doesn't really matter. Now, obviously, there's a relation to the throughput of your connection. So in the case of 8K files, which are just enormous, beyond measure, and a very fast RAID array or SSD, array is going to have a hard time playing 8K at full res. That's still the case with a solution like LucidLink. However, you can make proxies. That's going to be kind of the de facto. So the idea is that, yes, you can work with any kind of file type, because again, it looks and acts like a local drive, right? So any workflow that you would normally envision with a tool like Premiere, After Effects, you name it, with a local drive or a NAS or a connected external drive, all of those same workflows are seamlessly and transparently can be mapped to the same idea with LucidLink. Just the difference is it's cloud enabled. So now Matt and Gustavo and Victor can all have that same access. And to Matt's last point, we're all getting the benefits of increased productivity because we're all seeing those changes happen in real time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Oh, I see you talking, Gustavo. You were on mute there. Yeah.
I also wanted to add that although this is new tech to a certain extent, it has been proven. It works. We have many success stories today of, for instance, series out of one of the major streaming providers that was edited with Premiere using LucidLink with editors all over Latin America because they wanted the best of the best talent to work on this series. It's one of the most successful Spanish-speaking series in Netflix in Latin America. And they were using 4K, but what they did is they used proxies. And the reason to do that was just in case somebody in some country had issues with their internet, they could still work. So it's very flexible. You can work with the 4K if you have enough bandwidth. You can definitely work with HD. You can also use proxies. You can use a combination. But I would say, and I don't want to quote somebody, but basically this person said they finished the job before the final date they had agreed on by almost a month, just because they were able to quickly sync everybody access to the media, everybody editing the production in Premiere, and they're super happy. And the third season of that series is being edited as we speak with the same LucidLink Adobe solution.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, to your guys' point, the bottleneck is going to be internet connectivity, right? I mean, there isn't like it's all about that bandwidth consumption. It's not really a limitation, let's say, on the LucidLink client. You see what I mean? You can work with whatever file format. That's all good. It'll support it. Your bottleneck's going to be that internet connectivity, in terms of like how performant the solution is, right? At the end of the day, that's going to be the bottleneck.
Correct. I think it's a simple equation. It's like, what kind of media are you trying to edit from, and then map that against the internet connection that you have. So example, you're saying 8K red raw and you have a 20 megabit per second download. It's going to be a really bad day for you, right? So
yeah, exactly.
when you have those kind of solutions, you would have that same problem. For example, if you said I have red raw 8K and I have a single Western Digital, generic drive. Well, of course, that's not going to work, right? And so you figure a workflow out, like a proxy workflow. And so again, I think the idea is that we look and act like a local drive or a network drive. And so all of the same kind of workflows and ideas that you would normally do will apply. And I think Matt hit it right on the head. The only consideration is like, well, what is the kind of asset that you need or kind of type of edit or codec that you're using versus what is the throughput of the users that need to access that.
Mm-hmm. And then how the company works with the security of the video files, the security of the data.
Sure. So, just to kind of go back down memory lane for just a second, I think what I saw, and probably Matt and Gustavo as well, is that when the pandemic really happened, big companies especially kind of sent their creatives home and said, look, be safe, and then sent them home with drives and laptops and like finish the work. And to that extent, security kind of like, okay, we'll put that on the back burner for a little while, right? But when we talk about how the world communicates with video and the fact that content is in many cases, to Gustavo's this third season of the Netflix show, that is their revenue stream, right? And so protecting that is hugely important. So LucidLink, essentially only the customer ever gets to see the data. LucidLink does not get to see the data. The cloud object storage partner does not get to see the data. And even if we could, let's say we could hack into or break into that object storage system. Well, the same technology that gives LucidLink all of this great performance across distance also inherently gives a high level of security. So Julie said to me earlier today is that, if you're looking into that bucket, you're looking at a piece of the puzzle, right? So instead of like, here's a video file, well, you just get one teeny little piece. And guess what? That teeny little piece is encrypted. So it's almost like you're looking at a piece of the puzzle, right? So there is no way that anyone outside of the organization or that the organization allows to have access to can get to that data in an unencrypted manner. So security is an extremely strong component for LucidLink. And I think, a lot of the customers that we've worked with through CIS Group and through Adobe, have put it through its paces, have done security reviews, and we've passed all of those.
Yeah, I think the zero knowledge data policy there, Dennis, that you were referring to is absolutely crucial, right? I mean, when you look at media enterprises across the board, right, through very, very many different industry verticals, not just in broadcast and the kind of, traditional media enterprise, but also in corporate, also in sports, also in house of worship. I mean, if you're producing media, your asset is your media, right? And you want to protect that money-making asset at all costs, right? So I think on our end, right, as an integrator, and on LucidLink's end as, a developer and manufacturer, and on Adobe's end as a developer and manufacturer, right, we're always aiming to address the security concerns in a way that it's kind of transparent to the user. Let's say we're not bringing any more concerns onto the table, right, because of the solution, but rather making it so that security is just inherently a process, a concern for any media organization, right? That starts, to Dennis's point earlier, even with the management of their own people and their own video, when they enable, that video to leave the premises, so to speak, when the pandemic first hit, right? Like that in and of itself is almost a security concern, right? So we don't want to introduce any security concerns with the solution itself, right? And that whole zero knowledge data policy is something that just lays the groundwork from day one, right? Like nobody besides the organization even has access to the data in the first place. So
also it's important to notice that this is being used as we speak by some of the best known brands in the planet. Yeah. And none of them have said, we have concern this, concern that. They did a security review and the solution works. And as Dennis was saying at the beginning, at the end of the day, if you need to get the job done, there's certain concessions that you're going to make and risk you're going to take, because otherwise you don't get the job done. And that's even worse than if somebody actually stole something. So I think it's a way of understanding that times have changed. The same thing with customers that don't have internet connection, right? It's like, look, everything is going to be internet pretty soon. Everything's going to be cloud-based. You don't have an internet connection, you won't be able to work. So I think companies are understanding that there's certain risks that can be mitigated, certain risks that can be taken, and how you confront that is the way that's going to make you successful, and you'll be able to get your job done, which is the most important thing.
And finally, Gustavo's point just brought up one final thing for me. So, when we talk about some of the best brands in the world, we're very excited to work with all these people. And obviously they have a security infrastructure that includes things like single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. And that's already built into the LucidLink system. So in other words, you have creatives wanting to create content, and you also have IT that is kind of mandating the policy and making sure that their security policies are going to be enabled. And that might include things like multi-factor authentication or SSO. All of that's already built into the system and will integrate with their existing infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. And to start using LucidLink, do we need to purchase any specific hardware?
Yeah, no, it's actually just software. So you can legitimately be working and playing with your first file space within 5 minutes. I mean, it's a single client and a free 14-day trial, and legitimately you can create an account, set up a file space probably within 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And it works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. So it doesn't matter what type of computer you have, it will just work.
Yeah, we at both CIS and Gluecast, all of our test media, for support, for troubleshooting, you name it, we have it all in LucidLink these days, to be honest with you. Yeah, we have some things on our systems on-prem and stuff, but a lot of it's in LucidLink because it's just easier that way for us to be able to, leverage our support team in Brazil to troubleshoot cases that happen here in the US and vice versa, right? Again, the remote collaboration piece, right? If this is a central repository of assets that we can access from anywhere, then I can have my team in Brazil and my team in the US, leveraging the same assets at the end of the day.
And Gustavo's point on OSs, I think, is actually a really good one, because And, it speaks to the compatibility of Premiere Pro, for example, which is, Windows and Mac. So, Gustavo can be editing on a Mac, and then Matt is in a different location. He's actually in a different continent right now. And he can connect on a PC, and Mac and PC, again, with Premiere Pro, it doesn't matter. And and then on top of that, the Linux client is actually interesting. That's kind of the curveball. What's neat about that is large organizations that want to have a more prescriptive workflow for media asset management, many of those systems are at their core a Linux-based operating system. So to be able to have, like, people say, well, does LucidLink work with this asset management system? I'm like, if it can install the client, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And to Dennis's point, we've run a few of those tests in our labs, right? I mean, with different asset management systems that we work with, mounting it on top of LucidLink, and there you have it, right? All of a sudden we're seeing files that are inside of LucidLink, and it's a pretty seamless process. And I think, to your question earlier, Victor, that kind of takes us down a few different routes there, both commercially and from a deployment standpoint. Kind of the ease of deploying LucidLink is one aspect of that, right? Where you don't need the hardware component. It's all software as a service. You're downloading a local client, setting up the file space, and you're off and running. There's also the commercial piece of that, right? Where there's, when you have to buy hardware and you have to buy these perpetual licenses, like our industry is used to for the last however many decades. That's a very, very upfront, or a very significant upfront capital investment, right? That LucidLink kind of enables you to take off the table, right? Because it's again a cost-effective solution that's all software as a service, to Dennis's point earlier. And one of the coolest parts about it, in my opinion, from a commercial standpoint, is so LucidLink has a very, very close partnership with a particular data center provider. I'm allowed to mention IBM, Dennis? Or no?
Sure. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah.
Cool. So LucidLink does work with any cloud provider, right? It can work with AWS, GCP, Azure, Wasabi, you name it. But they have a very, very close partnership with IBM, and the benefit that translates to in practical terms is, look, when we're talking about cloud adoption and software as a service and cloud native applications in the context of media production, right? There are two of the biggest primary concerns, right? Are one, security that we just talked about, right? When you're talking about things on the open internet, and two, the unpredictability of costs of things like egress, right? And LucidLink's partnership with IBM, you still have to pay for egress because you're using resources and all that, but the partnership with IBM is so strong that the egress charge per gigabyte from the IBM data center is already 66% less than the industry average. So that's a huge cost savings right there, compared to, just dropping your assets in some random, blob storage, right? And then egressing it down at whatever, the average egress rate is in the market that day, right? So just throwing that out there as well, because that was to your point earlier, Victor, that component of not requiring any hardware brings a lot of benefit to the table.
Yeah. No, it really does. And I think, broadly speaking, one thing that I like to say, LucidLink looks and acts like a local drive, but it's shareable like a NAS, and it scales like the cloud. And we're getting the best of all three of those. And the scaling for the cloud, intrinsic to cloud workflows, is the idea that you only pay for what you use. So if a production company says, okay, they put a production on there, say it's a terabyte, fine, great, X number of users, X number of, amount of egress, whatever. But if they need next month to go to 1 to 2 terabytes, and then the third month to go back down to 1 terabyte, fine, it doesn't matter. You're only paying for what you're using. So you can scale up, and if you need to, scale back based upon the demands of the job, or what's going on with the business. So it's really powerful and nimble, so that companies can pivot quickly to adapt to ever-changing scenarios.
And you can work with any kind of editing and post-production programs.
Well, obviously, I have a huge background with Adobe, having worked for them for many years.
I know Adobe is the best one.
Yes. But Again, it's almost the answer is the same. It's like, does it mount on your desktop and it looks like a volume? And so can Text Edit use it? Yes. Can Premiere use it, and Resolve and Final Cut and Avid? Yes. Can Cinema 4D use it? Yes. Any application, if it can see it as a volume, and everything can see it as a volume, so it'll work with any application. So for creative workflows, you name it, yes, it works.
You could even hook up iMovie to it, from what I'm gathering.
Well, look, let's have some.
What I would add, though, is I would think the difference is how good can you collaborate with the solution that you pick to use in LucidLink, right? So one of the reasons that Premiere has been so successful with LucidLink is because Premiere already has built in the collaborative part of it. So it works seamlessly with LucidLink, so you can have multiple editors working on the same production at the same time. Other editors will work with LucidLink, but they don't necessarily have the collaboration tools built in. So collaboration might be a little bit more difficult. Let's put it that way.
All right.
I think he's speaking to a great point because, he has two wonderful collaboration technologies that are integrated directly within Premiere. And one called Team Projects, which is kind of historically was based on the idea of sync and share. So similar to Dropbox and things like that, which was a great solution, but obviously not quite as real time as what we'd like to see and deal with today. And then Productions, which is the newer technology, fantastic, really designed with the Hollywood film production in mind, ideally really an on-premise solution. So put LucidLink into both of those technologies, and both of them become fully remote, fully capable, still secure, still real-time collaboration systems. Again, so it's a really powerful match between Premiere Pro, After Effects, and LucidLink.
Yeah. And also a sensitive factor in the whole audiovisual industry is the cost of storage. How the LucidLink software work in that issue?
Sure. So Matt pointed out that we have a partnership with IBM. And so that's an integrated solution that we offer, very cost effective, and again, can scale up or down. But, a lot of our customers, especially the bigger customers, have existing agreements with, AWS, Azure, GCP, many others. And the idea is that LucidLink will work with any S3 compliant or Azure Blob compliant object storage system. So you can bring your own storage to the party, and LucidLink will sit on top of that and work just like it would if you instead got one of the integrated options with LucidLink and IBM storage.
And you have also a full backup system, yeah?
So there's yes. I mean, the short answer is yes, of course, right? But there's detail, right? So backup and archive, or backup and disaster recovery, there's nuances to all of those different words. So what LucidLink has is snapshots. So if you're familiar with the Mac platform and you think about Time Machine, and you kind of get this visual representation of points, snapshots in time that are saved. Yes. So we have, by default, we have 30 days worth of customs of integrated snapshots. So the idea is that, Gustavo and Matt and I could all be working on a production together. I mistakenly deleted a file and didn't even know it. And, 30 days later, we can go, where's that file? We can go back in time, look at our snapshot schedule, and recover that video in real time with no issues, right? And so that's very powerful. What's really interesting, you think, okay, wait a second. When I back up to, if I have this disk as my Time Machine disk, well, I fill this up. Actually, this may be my backup disk. And it's full with all the backups. With LucidLink, it's an immutable and it's a logarithmic file structure. So it's not adding any data. So in other words, if you have 10 terabytes of data stored on LucidLink, you're not adding appreciably at all, even if you've got 20 versions of a different video file or a Photoshop file or a Premiere Pro project. Doesn't matter. It's not really adding to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I wanted to add one thing there to what Dennis was mentioning. So, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis, the snapshot feature, right? That comes kind of built into LucidLink and any of those kind of, packages, let's say the basic and the teams and then the enterprise, right? And then I think, Victor, on the other kind of flip side, because you can interpret your question in a couple of different ways here. I think Dennis was right on the money in addressing, backup and disaster recovery, let's say, of any use case using LucidLink, right? With the built-in snapshot feature. But, if you go on LucidLink's website, for instance, you'll see, on the pricing page that there are 3 different kind of categories there, if you will, at 3 different price points. And one of those happens to be, named as like an archive backup use case, let's say, which is, the least expensive option there. And this is kind of going back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier of, looking at LucidLink in various forms, because it can tackle multiple different use cases, right? As again, that single source of truth kind of storage bucket. So there is that archive and backup use case in, with reduced performance, reduced support and all that. That's why it's, the kind of least expensive option there that you see on the pricing tab on the website, because, to restore assets and for archive use cases, you don't necessarily need to be go as you do in kind of a live, collaborative editorial post workflow. So there is that kind of use case that you can tackle with LucidLink as well that doesn't require as much performance, and that's why it's a less expensive option. But to Dennis's point, there is that snapshot feature built into each and every single LucidLink package, if you will, that automatically kind of backs up your data, for lack of a better term, backs up.
Yeah.
Makes it restorable from way back when, in case anything happens, let's say.
Way back when machine, yes. And just
the way back when machine.
One small addendum is like, for the enterprise and custom file space options, you have custom snapshotting available as well. So by default, you have a month or 30 days or 4 weeks of immutable backups and snapshots, but you can set up your own custom schedule as well. So if you need a longer or different kind of snapshot schedule, there's a lot of control within LucidLink snapshot features.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of industries are using LucidLink today? It's easier to understand the broadcasters and the video producers, but there's a huge platform of customers that could use the system.
There's really offerings for all different kinds of companies or even individuals. So I think we have something for everyone. But I mean, in terms of other industries that are utilizing LucidLink, I think there's a lot of advertising agencies, which even before the pandemic were kind of set up. They're disparate workforces, they're spread out, or they're different offices. But, Dallas could be communicating with Sao Paulo, can be communicating with Mexico City. And so LucidLink really provides a really interesting workflow for agencies. But beyond that, I think anywhere where there's large files or lots of them and you need access from anywhere in the world in a secure manner, honestly, we'll work with any of those different kinds of industries that are out there. And so as more and more people kind of continue their move to the cloud, I think LucidLink has discovered that, yes, we've focused on media and entertainment because video are big files and lots of them. And so that's a great vertical for us to focus on. But we've had so many inbounds from so many fantastic names and brands that, frankly, again, anywhere where there's lots of files or big files, LucidLink is a good fit.
Mm-hmm. And to start using your system, is there any specific training required, or is it just easy to configure and start everything?
It's you download the client and then you log in. You either set up your own file space or you're given credentials and you get access to that file space with the files that you have permission for, and you're good to go. So again, nothing extra required to kind of be able to use it. You install the client, you have access. It looks and acts like a local volume. You don't even, a lot of our users that use our system, the creatives that use it, don't even know that, they're connecting across the country or across an ocean to be able to edit their video or create their content.
That's amazing. And a question specific for Matt: how is the support of LucidLink today in Brazil?
So that's a very, very relevant question, especially for our clients in Brazil, obviously. So, in today's world, obviously a lot of support can be done remotely, right? So in that regard, we do have some help from our friends from LucidLink whenever it's necessary, but CIS is really, the first line of defense, if you will, there in Brazil. We will be providing, on-site support when needed, remote support whenever it's needed. We're the kind of, go-to local experts, if you will, because that, bridges the gap even when it comes to local language and all that good stuff, just being able to support our clients in a way that, they feel comfortable and that they feel like they can rely on someone. And, we've been operating the market for over 30 years in Brazil. And our goal is always to deliver the same quality of service that we're known for across all the product lines that we represent, right? So we engaged in this partnership with LucidLink last year. And we view ourselves, I don't want to speak on behalf of LucidLink here, but we view ourselves in this partnership and our role in this partnership as really, for lack of a better term, an extension of LucidLink in the territory, right? Where not only are we, bringing the product and the solution to market, but we're also, helping our clients deploy it, and we're supporting that install base whenever they need. So that's the long and short of it. Is we're the first line of support, but obviously, we're still ramping up our knowledge base, if you will, on LucidLink, because it's a relatively recent partnership. And we're going to keep investing our resources and developing our knowledge base along those lines, right? So today, we feel comfortable saying, hey, we're going to be that first line of defense and provide L1 support, but we may need to kind of escalate to LucidLink for help here and there, right, remotely. But the expectation is that by the end of this year, we're in a position where we can provide L2, L3 level of support if needed, and then we're only escalating for things that are, for example, right, like specific cases that require particular change in configuration or whatever the case may be, right? Very specific cases. We want to get to the point where by the end of this year, again, we're handling L2 and L3 level of support.
And I'll speak on behalf of LucidLink and saying, we're very happy with the partnership CIS. And I think Matt brings it, and CIS Group brings a tremendous amount of value to the area because, he spoke about language skills, and, we're a company that has a lot of interest from all quarters, all areas around the globe. And to your last question, from many different sectors that are interested in using and deploying LucidLink. And we just don't have the language skills as well as the intimate knowledge about how workflows are different and how things are, specific to specific South American or Latin American countries. And so we're excited and thrilled with having CIS Group really act as that extension of LucidLink.
All right. Well, our last question is, you have the space to deliver a message to our Panorama audience. So the space is yours, Dennis. Dennis,
so anything we want to say. Anything we want to say, guys, besides what we've talked about so far.
So what I would say to the viewers is, if you're doing video editing, if you're doing video production, and you're thinking that you're going to continue to be remote, which you probably will, even if the pandemic ends, I think remote workflows are here to stay because there's many advantages from many different perspectives. Setting up and I'm going to speak for Adobe, but setting up a LucidLink Adobe production workflow is extremely easy. It's so easy that it looks like it's not real, because literally all you need to do, and I'll describe it to you, is have a license of Adobe Premiere and After Effects, get a license of the LucidLink client, install it, set up your file space, drag the files you want to edit, and you're done. That's it. You're editing. You want to work with other people, invite them to the production, right? Here's the production. You invite them, you send them a connection to LucidLink, and that's it. There's nothing else to set up. People with no technical knowledge can do it, right? So it's super, super easy. The case study that I was telling you, most of the editors were not really technical. They were just editors, right? And they had to set it up themselves because they were in their homes. There was nobody that was going to go there and set it up for them. So it was as easy as install Premiere, install the LucidLink client, log into the file space, you're done. Start editing. So it's really, really cool.
You know, for myself, Victor, we're thrilled with all the attention, and we're excited about the opportunities for creatives and various people in different disciplines. The thing that I would say is, you know, try it for free on us. There is a free 14-day trial at lucidlink.com, and you can kind of see if this is something that'll work for you. You can put Gustavo's idea to the test, you know, play around with it with Premiere Pro and After Effects. And if you find that it's a great fit for you, then by all means, reach out to CIS Group and get connected with them. Because they're going to be able to give you all the expertise and the local talent to kind of create not just a LucidLink volume, but an integrated workflow for broadcast production, media and entertainment, or whatever your use case is.
Yeah, I'll add to that with a couple of thoughts here. And I also want to take the opportunity at the end to just share one little bit of news here about some of our plans for 2022. So I want to echo what Dennis and Gustavo said. I mean, look, especially these days, post-pandemic, you know, remote is here to stay. Cloud is here to stay. Hybrid is here to stay. Some variation of all of these factors is here to stay. And why am I saying some variation? Because, again, we're all trying to achieve a very similar end result, right? Of doing more with less, of monetizing our content, of producing, you know, more content at a faster pace, right? The nuances is in how we achieve that, right? Because I like to say that no two workflows are the same, right? Every creative has their own preferences, right? Every media organization has their own preferences and their own policies and their own workflows. So that's where, you know, to Dennis's point, we can be of very significant help is, you know, architecting, for instance, a camera to cloud workflow that enables you to have a hybrid kind of environment, right? Where your fast-paced, fast turnaround stuff is happening in LucidLink, right? And Adobe, but you have that kind of on-prem integration as well. So look, you know, I'm very, very excited about the partnership with both Adobe and LucidLink. And the piece that I wanted to share is that a lot of the workflows that we're talking about here today, we will be showing in Brazil this year. We're going to take this to the SET regionals, right? We're even going to showcase some of this at SET Expo in Sao Paulo. We're going to be hosting webinars. So be on the lookout for that information because, you know, we're talking about a lot of things, but we want to show, right? We want to show and prove. And at the end of the day, we feel very confident in the fact that we can do that in a demo very quickly. We can get our clients set up on a system like that to test and play around with it very quickly. And then once they actually see and feel what it's like, to Dennis's point, I mean, this is a cloud native solution, right? That acts like a local drive, but it affords you all the benefits of the scalability of the cloud, right? So it's we're going to be bringing this on the road. We're going to be showing it. And, you know, we're very much looking forward to continuing this partnership and hopefully, you know, deploying more and more instances of this particular workflow that we're talking about throughout the region.
All right, guys, thank you. It's always exciting for us to talk about new technology, and this is amazing. I think LucidLink has a lot of space to grow, and we hope to buy some stocks from them in the future.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Absolutely. Hey, Victor, it's a real pleasure to meet you. And if there's any kind of tidbits or data that you need to build around your story, please reach out to any of us. But like on behalf of LucidLink, thank you very much for the time, and anything we can do to follow up, please let us know.
All right, friends.
Thanks very much, man. Always a pleasure.
Muito obrigado, Victor.
Thank you, Gustavo. Bye-bye.
All right,
we keep in touch.